15 on Monday, July 25th, 2016, and the Carroll City Council meeting is now in session. Will everyone rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please note all council members are present except for Councilwoman Bass and Councilman Benami. And first thing I'm going to do, we have a retirement occurring this month, and I'd like to award Carroll the certificate of appreciation for Carroll City Manager for the last 22 years. It'll be a sad day for me because I don't know who I'm going to talk to. Yeah, thank you, Carroll, for all your years of service. The community appreciates it, and I know I do, and I think I can speak for the rest of the council people. I think they've enjoyed what you've done and where you've taken us. Thank you very much. There you go. Oh, yeah, I got a spot for you. That's a nice photo. That came out pretty good. Yeah, color. Oh. Wow. This will go right by the front door so everybody can see it when you come in. Okay. I'll put this back in there. The next item is the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the July 11th meeting, approval of bills and claims, renewal of a Class B native wine permit for Designs by Bernie, acceptance of the settlement agreement from Dollar General and Dries Oil Company with the retailers providing their payments of the civil penalty. Motion to accept the consent agenda. So moved. Second.
There is a motion and a second. Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Are there any oral requests and communications from the audience for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to the ordinances, and seeing that there are none of those, we will move to resolutions. And the first resolution is the 18th Street Drainage District tile replacement. And since Randy is gone this evening, what had happened over near 18th Street at Grant Road, right near the bus barn, there was a tile that collapsed last winter, and I think now this is the time that they want to replace that. And so they're going to get that done, try and get it done before school is out. Bids that came in for this, you can see for King Construction was $12,981.55, and then the other one was $17,770. And I think the request is that we use the one from King Construction. Are there any questions? I think it was pretty straightforward. It was in an area there right near the school. If not, I'll seek for approval of the resolution accepting the quote for the 18th Street Drainage District tile replacement submitted by King Construction. So moved. Second.
There is a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
The second resolution this evening is plans and specifications in a form of contract and an estimate of cost for the Cemetery Maintenance Building 2016. And it is 5:20, and I will open up a public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract with an estimate of cost. And Jack.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you tonight is the plans, which detail a 2,400 square foot metal building, similar in design to what the street or the Parks Maintenance Garage is that was built 5-6 years ago now. The Parks Maintenance building was 4,000 square foot. This will be a 2,400 square foot building. This one we want to put a little brick on the front, break it up so on the office and maintenance side will be a little bit lower than the garage side, so it wasn't just a square rectangle building. Office, there'll be a break room / conference room when we need to talk to families and pull out larger maps and things to show them. We'll have more room, more area to do that. And then in there, of course, will be an employee restroom, and then a little storage area, utility building for all the mechanical items that we have. Other than that, two bay windows. We will get everything we need into that building. It's just time. Our current buildings, I think most of you have been up there, two-car garage basically. Not even really, can't fit 2 cars in there. And this will really help the department and help our area be more efficient, and be a much better area for families to meet when we need to talk with the family. The specifications for the detail plan, I have plans and specifications here if anyone wants to look at them. And then the form of contract is the normal AIA document A101. And then the opinion of cost, and I did verify with Laura today, the current budget is $480,000. And estimates are coming in a little bit higher than that. Right now we show about $534,000 for our new estimate, and that would be with a 15% contingency. Not saying we will use that, but basically the estimate is $465,122 plus 15% contingency, which would put it at $534,890.30. So we will need to find additional money if we want to continue.
Jack, would you explain the funding source or sources that, from which you budgeted the 480?
Laura?
It's all bonds.
It's all bonds, okay. I could not recall, okay.
Which we have not sold those bonds yet.
Right.
We held
Oh,
a public
right.
hearing, and we have it incorporated into our fiscal 17 budget, which we just started at the beginning of this month, but we have not sold those yet.
Okay, thanks.
And when they're sold, at what, how many years are we taking this to?
I believe right now it's currently structured at a 6-year repayment, but that's also coupled with the 3rd Street storm sewer project that we're working on. We're going to have to revisit that, if you recall a few meetings ago, when we had we took bids on that project, that came in considerably higher than what we had in the budget. So if a council had decided at that time that they did want to go forth with the project, and go forth using bonding, additional bonding for that. So PFM's aware of it, we can work that in. We'll just have to do, I believe, an additional public hearing to raise the not to exceed amount, and then go out to the market to actually sell the bonds.
Above and beyond.
What we had
we'd already
originally had
approved.
done,
Yeah,
yes.
that's right, okay.
So after bids are taken on this, and if it does come in higher, that would be an option for this project as well.
Okay. We can just tie those two in together.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Jack?
I mentioned two items on this. Our original estimate increased. Some of the increase is just, the estimate we had was 8 months to a year ago. But also we want to have, that we talked about after our original concept drawings that we had, was an enclosure for the dirt piles that we have down there. Right now they just are open. We want to have something with the new building. We just don't want a dirt pile on the side of it. This will be a 3-sided concrete enclosed structure with a slanted roof and doors so we can open it up when we need to get the dirt. And we have better control of it, especially with the environment. And then the second is we ran conduit out of the building to an area just to the north of which would be the building. So if we want to put a future kiosk in, I want to make sure we ran that. So we had that. That was $5,000 alone. So that was $25,000 on top of our first estimate that we had.
So you've got $20,000 for an additional building in essence then, Jack, to house the dirt you used to fill back in and as you take it out and put it back in?
Yes.
Okay, that was added in addition since our original budget, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jack? If not, it is 5:26 and we'll close the public hearing. And then I will need a motion to accept the resolution adopting the plans, specifications, form of contract and an estimate of cost for the cemetery maintenance building 2016.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And on to reports. We have before us a vicious animal appeal hearing. And David?
The only thing I would mention is we, I think unfortunately have just gone through a hearing like this or an appeal like this a month or so ago. My only recommendation would be that, and we all, the council all knows this, Mayor Jensen will act as the chair, so to speak. He'll keep the matters flowing. He'll call witnesses and allow people to speak or ask questions as deemed appropriate. Each side will have a chance to present their evidence, and when we're done with the evidence, the appeal process will be closed, and the council will then make its decision whether to deny the appeal or approve it.
Deputy Franzen, I believe you're first.
Hi guys, I'm Deputy Franzen from the Carroll County Sheriff's Office. I was the investigating officer in this particular dog call. What happened was a city employee was involved in the dog bite itself, so that's why the Sheriff's Office got the case involved to us. During my investigation, I spoke with 3 different people that were witnesses on the phone. I had 1 statement, and then I also spoke with 3 others in person versus this case. All the information that I got was pretty consistent. Basically, the information that I got, and you guys should all have a copy of all these, but the dog that actually is in question here is Eric Renzi's dog. His son, Landon, was actually walking the dog on the street with a leash legally. The dog got loose from him from the leash, ran across the street onto Brad Burke's property and attacked Brad Burke's dog, where it bit Brad Burke's dog and caused injury. And all the people that I talked to, and also the people I spoke with on the phone and in person, basically said the same story. So that's the case. I did write Eric a vicious dog complaint, which I served to him, and that's kind of the gist of the case. Do you have any questions? I do have 2 witnesses here if you do want to talk to them. Brad Burke and his wife are both here. They were both at the,
Yeah,
when
that
it
would
happened.
be the next, yep, that would be the next thing to.
So if you want them to talk, they can absolutely, have them come up and tell their side of the story also. You guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, I have one. You said you have a total of 7 individuals.
Correct. I talked to the son, Landon, who was actually walking the dog. He was 13 years old. That'd be Eric Renzi's son. Eric was there when I talked to him. I spoke with 3 names that Eric gave me on the phone, all 3 people that I spoke with on the phone, and then I spoke with the 2 owners of the other dog.
And the 3 people were all present as well. 3 people were out, you spoke with on the phone were,
That I spoke with 3 different people on the phone, correct. And then I did 4 people in person. 3 in person and 1 I just got a statement from. I didn't speak with them.
okay.
Are you
There's 7
asking
total
were
people.
the eyewitnesses, is that what you're
Right.
asking?
Yeah.
Right, I spoke with 7 total eyewitnesses. Or had 1 statement. I guess I spoke with 6 and had 1 statement from.
Tom, do you have pictures to present to the council?
Yes, you guys should all have a copy of those if you don't. Nobody has
No,
pictures?
no, no information was distributed before.
Oh, I was under the impression that
No,
it was.
the information that the council's receiving right now is the first time they've heard this
Okay,
information.
I got some for everybody if they want to watch. Here's the complete report. There's pictures in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got pictures of Brad Burke's dog, the injuries to his dog.
Thank you.
Approximately right past the pictures. My summary report looks like this. This is a supplemental incident report. That's the, you guys want to look up here, that's kind of a summary of everything of all the cases.
Oh, that's, okay.
The original case was done by the city of Carroll. The original incident was done by the city of Carroll, and I took the case over.
And this, the pictures are of Brad's dog?
That's correct. The pictures were taken at the vet clinic by a Carroll police officer.
Okay. Other than Brad, his wife, you don't have any other witnesses that are here?
That's correct. Didn't want to
Okay.
have it. That's correct. They were right there in the mix of it when it happened.
So did this happen, it says in the yard, was it in the right-of-way, or?
This happened, and that's why the whole situation, this actually happened on Brad's property, inside the property line on his property.
And did the dog have to cross the street?
Yes, the
Part
dog.
of the narrative appears that the
He
dog,
was walking the dog across the street from Brad's house on the sidewalk with a leash. The dog got excited, started pulling on the leash, got away from the person that had the leash, landed the boy that he said he thought that maybe the collar broke on the dog's leash. The dog ran across the street and onto Brad's property. Brad's dogs are loose on his property, but he does have an underground fence, and the dogs were well within that underground fence, and that's where and the dog itself is named Harley. It's a American Bulldog type dog that was walking by Renzi. That's the dog in question.
so the Renzi dog was not provoked at all?
I believe that the
What is-
dogs, possibly by talking to everybody, they might have barked at each other.
Okay.
Again, it was across the street. Brad's dogs, again, were on his property because they were confined by an underground fence, which they did not, never cross that fence. And I do believe that his dogs were barking at them also, but they were barking back.
But stayed within?
Correct,
Okay,
stayed within his property.
Where they
Within
were to
his
be?
property line.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would request a few moments of time to read and process this evidence that's been put before us. Would that be?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
we can, yeah, and you can also hear it.
You want me to sum up a little bit better what
Witness
happened? Would you like me to do that?
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be good.
Okay, basically, from my reports, and I've talked to everybody, what happened was Landon Renzi, who's a 13-year-old son of Eric Renzi, was walking Harley, a English-type bulldog, or American bulldog, black, or it's a white-colored dog with black spots. While he was walking the dogs, he said that he heard Brad's dogs barking across the street. And Brad has two dogs. He has a brown-colored golden retriever, which is about 12 years old, and a smaller, what he said is a half-size dog. And the dog started pulling on the leash. Landon said that he couldn't hold the leash, and the dog got away from him. He wasn't positive, but he believed that the collar broke on the dog. He wasn't positive of that, but that's what he thought happened. He did chase the dog across the street. The dog ran right to Brad's property, onto Brad's property, and actually attacked the golden retriever dog. The smaller dog was not hurt at all. Brad's wife was in the yard, and that's why she's here now. She saw this happen. She ran over, tried to separate the dogs because they were fighting, and Brad's dog was on the bottom, and Eric Renzi's dog was on the top of the dog. She tried to, but also she was scared for her own safety, obviously, too. Brad heard the commotion. He was planting some bushes by his house. He ran out. He had a shovel in his hand. He did strike the Renzi dog with the shovel, trying to separate him, which did no good. He hit it one time on the back. He was going to strike the dog again, but his wife stopped him from doing that. And so he grabbed the dog from the backside, picked it up, went out to the street, and threw it into the street. Once he threw the bulldog onto the street, the dog took off, and then Landon, Eric Renzi's son, chased the dog. that kind of sums up.
So the attack occurred on private property,
Yes.
not in the public right of way?
That is correct.
Which I think that's what the ordinance is pointing towards.
And the pictures that are on there, again, are injuries to Brad's dog. And there is a copy of the vet bill in here also, the vet bill that Brad had when he took his dog to the vet. And I did put a copy of the ordinance in here too for you guys to read to refresh your memory if you want to.
Have you had any follow-up with this since then?
As far as,
Is the dog gone? What's,
what part of the deal was, there was a kind of a, something on the table that I talked to Brad about it, and he approached whoever. They said that if an option was there, that the vicious dog part he wouldn't be charged with the dog ticket if he just removed the dog from the city limits. I approached Mr. Renzi with that, and I called him on the phone, and he said that he wasn't interested in that.
Okay.
So that's why we're here today.
Gotcha. If nobody has any other questions for Deputy Franzen, we can go to the witnesses. We can always recall if we need to. Okay?
Any other questions, guys?
Just one, who issued the ticket to the?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
Okay, alone?
Yes. Yes, I wrote, and there's a copy of that citation in there too, if you see that, my signature on the bottom. He was charged under the city ordinance code.
Oh, these are the. Let's see what it is. Okay. Okay, Brad, do you want to come up next, or do you want your wife to come up?
It doesn't matter, I can do
Either
the
one.
one you like.
We'll probably hear from both of you anyway.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brad, and tell us your,
I just want to answer questions, or I pretty much stayed out of this. Obviously, there's a conflict, so that's why I was turned over to the sheriff's department. I can give you a witness account. On the day in question, it was late afternoon. I was outside removing some bushes from our property on the south side of my house. My wife was on the front, which is the east side of our property, and I didn't see the Renzi dog coming down the street. I wasn't paying attention to that. I was busy working on the property. So anyway, I heard the commotion. I come out to the front, looked around the front yard. I saw the two dogs on the ground fighting. One was my brown Chesapeake, and the other one would have been the white American Bulldog. I did recognize the kid as Landon Renzi that was there. Apparently must have been walking the dog. I didn't see a leash or anything like that. Just saw the two dogs fighting with each other. So had a shovel that I was digging out bushes with. I ran over, struck the dog with the shovel. The dog didn't even flinch at that point, so I was going to strike it again. And my wife stopped me at that point, so I just reached in and grabbed the dog kind of on the back of its ears and picked it off the ground and threw it out in the street. At that point, the dog just tucked his tail and ran away, so with the Renzi kid chasing after it.
did Landon try to stop, was he able to, did he try to stop the dog at all?
Yeah, he was around the dogs there, but he wasn't having any luck to get the dog separated either.
Once dogs get to fighting, it's.
Yeah, he was there, my wife was right there also.
Okay. Was your dog bleeding profusely? Just
Wasn't streaming out, but she had a pretty deep wound on her chest, and her head had some superficial wounds too, but she had to get some, they stapled, I think, her leg and her chest
Okay.
area.
You didn't get bit in the process then, I take it?
No.
No, okay. About how far away from the right-of-way was this into your property?
It was about 10 feet off the curb line, so I don't know the exact
Okay.
location there, what that would be, but that's
What's
just
the
an estimate.
furthest your dog could go on in the?
She
front-
could
on
probably
the fence that you
get,
had?
she could
Yeah.
probably get about between 7 and 10 feet off the curb line.
Could go
Yes.
beyond.
She can't go any farther than that.
Okay.
The underground fence, I think she can go about a foot or two from the underground fence before it starts to shock her. And so she was behind that onto our property.
Generally, the ones that I've seen put in, Jerry, they always stop at like short of the sidewalk.
I just wanted to make sure it
We don't-
wasn't.
There's no sidewalks in our
You don't have
neighborhood either, so.
sidewalks. Did your other dog at the time was not outside, or?
They were both outside.
Both, okay.
Yeah, both dogs, my wife and I, and then 3 of our kids, I believe, were outside.
Okay. Any other questions for Brad? Thanks, Brad.
Yep.
Does your wife want to come up?
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Could you give us your version of what you had seen?
Yes, I was on the east side of our house, and our one dog started barking, our Chesapeake. And so I turned around, I had my back to the street. My 7-year-old son was up in the front with me. And I heard the dog barking, so I turned around and I saw Landon walking his dog across the street. And they were down about in front of the neighbor's house, like kitty corner from us. And once he hit like the light pole across the street from us, his dog started pulling him. So I dropped my shovel and I like walked to my dog to kind of grab because she was barking. And then his dog was barking and kept pulling him across the street. And I'm thinking the leash broke or he was pulling too hard and he let go of him.
Sure.
So their dog ran into our yard and I started screaming. I had my 7-year-old right next to me and our other dog was behind us. And I was screaming at him to grab his dog. And we both kind of tried to get in there to grab them, and they were obviously fighting. His dog was on top of ours. And so I went in a couple different times to grab, and so did he, and we couldn't get him apart. So then Brad came running up from the side of the house and grabbed the shovel that I was working with on the side and picked it up and ran. And I kind of was screaming at Brad not to hit the dog, you know. And he hit him once on the back and then dropped the shovel, and then Brad went in and grabbed the back of his neck and threw him into the street, and Landon ran after him. And Landon was scared. He was scared like I was. It's just scary to see that. And I was scared for my 7-year-old to see it all, you know, it's scary. We're animal lovers, so.
Did your dog make any attempt to run after that dog? or
No,
it
she was
stayed
on the
right there?
ground. Yeah,
Okay.
she was on the ground.
Okay.
And she was whining when she was standing up, and she had a wound like on the outside of her arm and then like right underneath. We didn't notice the one underneath until we got to the vet. I think she had 4 stitches and like 6 or 7 staples. And then a cut on her forehead and bruising and
Is the dog doing okay now?
yeah.
Doing fine?
Yep.
Okay. No lingering effects or anything? Okay.
No. She's crabby now at other dogs, but
Any other questions? If not, you can have a seat. And
Okay.
Eric, you want to come up? Landon come with you, or?
No, he's at
Sure.
Iowa State Wrestling Camp right now.
Okay,
I do have his statement though.
that's fine. If you want to read that, that's fine.
and what he also told me.
Sure.
For me, I'm Eric Renzi.
Yes, go ahead, Eric.
Anyway, I was at home when this all happened, and Landon takes the dogs for a walk every night. I mean, we've never had an issue before. I'm just going to read what he's got. This is from Landon. It says, "My name is Landon Renzi. I'm 13 years old. On the afternoon of May 30th, I was walking my dog, Harley, down the street of the city of Carroll. Harley was wearing a collar and leash during our walk when we approached Officer Burke's house. Now, my son does not know Officer Burke from anybody. So, home. 2 dogs were outside in the yard and came charging towards us. One dog stopped at the edge of the yard, and the bigger dog was partially off the yard. Both dogs were barking at Harley. Harley got scared and broke the collar. I feel as though Harley was provoked and acting in self-defense while Officer Burke's dogs were being aggressive towards her. Additionally, Harley was outnumbered. There were 2 dogs against Harley at the time. That's what he told me, and that's what's in his statement.
Sure.
The bigger dog bit Harley and was pinning her down on the ground while the other dog was circling around barking loud. Officer Burke came over and hit Harley with a shovel. Harley cowered down, and Officer Burke picked her up and threw her into the street. Now, according to my son, when Officer Burke Chief Burke, picked her up he grabbed her by the throat and by the back hindquarters somewhere, and he literally slammed her on the ground. The witnesses that I talked to when we walked down the block said they're surprised the dog even got back up and walked back home.
Sure.
I got ahead of myself. Officer Burke came over with a shovel. Well, I got past that. Okay, sorry. Officer Burke followed Harley onto the street, yelling at her and threatening to shoot her with his gun if he had it on him. At this point, after Chief Burke hit Harley with the shovel and threw her into the street, she took off running for home. Harley was injured from the altercation and being beaten by Officer Burke. She had to go to the vet for her injuries. She had a gash in her cheek right here. The vet said, the Carroll vet, and I got the vet bill, said if it was any deeper, she would have had to have stitches. Her ears were all torn up on the inside from the dog bites. Her snout was all chewed up. I don't know if it was from the shovel or from the other dogs biting on her. Harley's a very sweet dog and has never bitten any other animal or human. Harley also has never exhibited any vicious tendencies. Harley should be allowed to continue to live with my son and us in our home, Carroll home. Harley was taken from an abusive home when we adopted her. She was beat severely by the previous owners that had her. If you walk up to her with a belt or a shovel or anything, she cowers down immediately. You say the word bad to her, she goes down to the ground. I would have my ex-wife testify to that, but she's not here. Same with my other son, he's not here. She lives with a black lab. Also, we live next door to Greg Costra, who also has 2 smaller dogs, and she's been out around his dogs. She's never attacked anybody. We've never had her jumping the fence. She's never went off before on her own. Nothing. The day this happened, or it wasn't the day this happened, the following day I had received a phone call from Chief Burke, and his first words to me on the phone were, "I was waiting for you to call me to apologize." And I said, "Apologize for what?" "For your dog attacking mine." And I said, "Well, let's have this out, let's have this conversation. I'd like to know what happened. I wasn't there." He gave me his version of the story. I gave him Landon's. He asked me what I would do if the shoe was on the other foot. First of all, not knowing Chief Burke or his wife or his children, if I would have taken a shovel to somebody's dog, I'm sure I would have been in handcuffs. If I would have threatened to pull my .45 and shoot their dog, I would have been in jail. So I told Chief Burke that it wouldn't have been a shoe on the other foot because I probably would have been arrested at that point in time of that happening. like I said, she's never caused a problem with anybody ever before. She's a good dog. And, I mean, that's all I got to say on that. And this is Landon's statement. I do have pictures. Landon took pictures of her. They're on his,
Did you bring them with you?
I have them in his Facebook, or he's got them on his Facebook, the gash on the side of the face. And the Carroll vet's got the
Do you have
record.
the vet bill with you?
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh.
They thought she had internal bleeding from the shovel.
Councilman.
So we had to watch her for 3 or 4 days because the vet thought she had internal bleeding because she wasn't moving because she was beaten that hard with the shovel. Now, I understand that you have to do what you gotta do to separate dogs when they're fighting. But my son also said that when Chief Burke was swinging the shovel, it was carelessly and at several points could have hit my son as he was trying to pull the dog off. My son's 13. Threatening to shoot a dog in front of my son is, you know, that's not right. He's supposed to be a figure in the community. You know, I understand dogs fight. I don't really have anything else to say. I just know that my dog's not vicious and she was outnumbered.
Where's your dog now?
She is with my brother-in-law and sister, and they have 2 dogs about the same size as Brad Berg's. They have video evidence of her in the house, being around these other 2 dogs, and being around their kids. And I have, you know, my nieces and nephews are, you know, they're this high to this high.
Sure.
You know, and the kids just love her.
Okay.
The worst complaint my brother-in-law has about her being so vicious is that she's a bed hog. And she still is a pup. She's only 3 years old, so she's still considered a puppy at that age.
Does Landon would he take the same route every night to walk the dog?
Both dogs. We have a black lab too. He'd walk both of them in that direction. Landon wouldn't know that Chief Burke's got an underground fence in his yard. I've got pictures of Chief Burke's house. Nowhere does it state that there's an underground fence. If 2 dogs came running up to me, and I would think they were coming after me. I have a friend that lives on the same block, John Webker. He used to walk that direction with his kids to do paper routes. He said Chief Burke's dogs would always come running up, out towards at them, barking and growling, and he's not here tonight. He's in Illinois on vacation, but
Sure.
if I goes to court or whatever, then I would have him as a witness stating that. I recommended, or I didn't recommend, I asked, my solution to this problem is I would pay Chief Burke's bills for the vet, and then he would take care of mine, and we would go our separate ways and let bygones be bygones. I'll keep my dog on my side of town, away from him. On that side, I won't let Landon walk her over there anymore. I've been, when I take Landon to wrestling practice, we drive that way out to the high school. And I've noticed that 2 weeks ago, Chief Burke's dogs were outside and both of his front doors were closed. And they were out in the yard, unsupervised. Now, I understand he says he has an electric fence underground, and that's fine. But I don't see anywhere proof that it's posted. And I'm not saying that it's supposed to be posted, but Landon didn't know. I don't, you know, so. And I think Harley did the right thing. If the dogs would have attacked Landon and she would have just sat there and did nothing, you know, then I would have had a tore up 13-year-old instead of 2 dogs that are going to mend and that are going to be all right. And
were you able to visually see the leash or the collar? Were either one broken that you were aware of? Do you know?
no, I didn't see the collar, but he put it back on. I think the clasps on it, when she pulled, the clasp came apart on it, I believe, is where it's, because it's happened before at our house when we've had her on a leash, and it's come apart as she's going inside after a walk. We do have a harness for her also, so he just, I don't know if he just didn't think about putting the harness on her or what. But he's very devastated about this whole incident with the dog. I mean, it's his dog. He loves her. And I apologize for, you know, the inconvenience of the 2 dogs fighting, you know, but I'm not gonna, I don't think it's fair that she's deemed vicious after one attack, you know, or whatnot. And she's been around, like I said, she's been around other dogs all her life with us. And well, at least with us for the last 3 years, and now with my, like I said, my sister and her husband, so.
Any other questions for Eric?
How much does Harley weigh?
I believe she's about 70 pounds, 75 pounds right now. All her records are at the Carroll Vet Clinic. She's all up to date on her shots, and they weigh her down there. I think last time she was about 75 pounds, 80 pounds.
How big a kid is Landon? He's 13,
He is 120 pounds, I believe.
120. How tall?
Probably 8 tall.
Okay, okay. Your vet bill, you said your dog was really chewed up, but the vet bill does not show any sutures and so on as Brad's does?
Yeah, the vet said that the one on her face wasn't quite
Antibiotics.
deep enough yet to suit. He said if it didn't stop bleeding to bring her back in, he would put some
So it
in.
was mainly gave the dog antibiotics, it looks like?
Yeah, something for the pain, because she was limping on the back leg and her face. She didn't move off the floor for 2 days. The vet thought, after we told her that she was picked up and slammed on the ground, he told us to watch for internal bleeding due to the fact, and getting hit with the shovel is what the vet told us to do, is to take her home. If you see blood coming anywhere that shouldn't be, to bring her back. About 3 days later, after the fact,
Now, Brad mentions in his statement that what he did is he used the shovel on the middle of your dog's back, but you said something about you thought the shovel
my son
did
said that.
something to his face, but that contradicts the other witnesses'
My son's-
statements about the shovel hitting him on the
Sorry.
back.
My son said that she was hit in the face and in the back area. So he hit her more than once, my son said, with the shovel, that he'd hit her
So
more than
your
once.
son says Brad hit your dog in the face with the shovel?
Yes, and
as
in,
well
and
as
in
the
the,
back.
and in the backside.
Do we have copies of that statement, or?
No, we don't. I've not received that one. Can we get a copy of those?
Thank you.
I want to read through that.
Eric, and I don't know that makes a huge difference, but I do notice they have her birthday, his birthday is June 1st of 2011.
Whose?
Harley's.
I'm not sure. Like I said, we got her when she was 3, or I'm not sure what they've got her as.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know, that's a big issue, but, that would make the dog 5 years old versus 3.
Unless they put Cujo's birthday on there, because we have a black lab and he's 5, gonna be 6. So, I mean, we got 2 different dogs, but she's only 3. She is. I just had her in for her last shots and stuff, so she is 3. I mean, they've told us that plenty of times, because we've asked them how old she was when we first got her, and up until now. But she is still a
See
pup.
that one more time? Because that one should have the weight on it too.
And
Should be at the top right hand, about the middle third. At the top up there is where it should be. It should say weight.
80 pounds.
80 pounds, okay.
So that's close.
All right, yeah.
And then I did receive a phone call from Deputy Franzen, and he used you, and we talked about that.
Yeah, I remember you and I talked.
And you had told me that there was nothing set in stone yet about the deal, so I would like to bring that out in this meeting too, that I was lied to about you looking this over, and that you made the offer on the table about getting rid of the dog and paying Chief Burke's vet bill. I do want to make that known to this hearing.
I'm sorry, could you rehash that, please? I was reading.
Sorry, Mr. Haley. I got a phone call about 2 days later from Deputy Franzen, and he told me that the mayor had put an offer on the table that I pay the vet bill for Chief Burke, and that I get my dog out of the city limits. So I got off the phone with Franzen, And immediately I called the mayor, because I wanted to find out if that was the truth or if that was fabrication. And when I talked to Mr. Mayor, he said he hadn't made
Ain't spoken with anybody.
Exactly. So I was lied to by Deputy Franzen about the deal on the table coming from the mayor. And I wanted to make that.
I don't know where that had come from, yeah, because I hadn't talked to anybody about it.
You told me you hadn't even had time to sit down and look at the situation.
I hadn't gotten the report until, I think it was about 2 weeks after I talked to you on the phone when I finally got it. But I think the sheriff's department was putting that all together, making sure everything was
Yeah.
corroborated.
And then when the new deal came out, before I got the ticket, when the new deal came out, was the same one. Immediately after I turned down the deal, 2 days later, it wasn't even 2 days, I was cited for the vicious dog ticket. I mean, it was, when I first met with Franzen at my house, Deputy Franzen, I told him, I said, if you've already made your decision on what you're going to do, please don't waste my time nor my son's and just write me the ticket, because eventually that was what was going to happen. Because I feel, in my opinion, that if it was anybody else other than Chief Burke's dog, I wouldn't be sitting here right now in front of the city council trying to keep my dog. If it was Bob Jones down the street or anybody else that it was like this, I'm assuming that we could have worked something out, you know, pay the vet bills, go our separate ways, not having to hash this whole big thing out with the dog ticket. That's my opinion, so.
Mr. Berger, we have heard an awful lot of testimony from different people tonight. I just wish to clarify, the point on which we are convened is to determine whether the dog is vicious or not.
Correct.
We have no purview over other such accusations by either party, I don't believe, but we're here to rule on vicious or not.
Right.
I'm very sympathetic to what's been said here tonight, but it should be clear that that's what we're here to decide is the dog vicious or not. And that's where my mind's at. If I'm off track, I'd like you to please correct me so I can get on track.
That's the only reason why you're here,
Okay.
is for the appeal of the designation as a vicious dog.
Oh, yes, I know.
And the definition, if you have it there,
Yeah.
any animal which has attacked a human being or domestic animal one or more times without provocation while at large. And then at large is off the premises of the owner and not under the control of a competent person.
Mr. Renzi, it was earlier stated that you had been given a copy of the City of Carroll's code relating to vicious dogs. You did receive that?
Correct, I did.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions for Eric?
With the absence of Landon tonight, and from reading his statement there, it's my understanding that Landon felt the Burke dogs were provoking your dog. Is that correct?
Yeah, he said that they came running up at him, the Burke dogs, yes.
And did the Burke dogs leave their yard?
He said they did. He said the one came out on the street. Harley did not cross the line from the street onto Burke's yard until the fight took place, after Burke's dog bit ours and the other dog was doing whatever it was. Then it proceeded onto Burke's property. And from what he said in his statement, I do believe, I think he said, when Franzen was at our house, I think he said 3 to 4 feet from the curb is where it stayed. But I'm not for sure on that. I don't have the report in front of me at this point.
Or 3 to 4 feet on the curb by Brad's house?
3 to 4, if this is the curb line, Landon said that our dog went up to the curb line and Burke's dogs came there, and one came onto the road, bit Harley, started the fight and bit Harley, and then pinned her down, and then Harley got free and
Okay.
started fighting back.
Right.
Okay, but earlier, we were told Harley had to cross the street.
Yeah,
To get
Harley,
to
Landon was
Burke's.
walking, from my understanding, Landon was walking, he saw the Burke's dogs. So he immediately starts going across the street to keep Harley away. That's what any normal person would do.
Would,
So he would, if Burke's house is here and the street's here, Landon was walking her, saw the Burke's dogs, so Landon starts walking the dog around to the high side of the road, it would be the west side of the road. So it's not on the east side where Burke lives. Burke lives on the east side of the road there on Quint,
but
or whatever.
Harley had to cross a street to get to Burke's property, correct?
I'm assuming, yes, I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to go back to that 3 to 4 foot statement. There's a question there I'd like answered as well, please. Was that 3 to 4 feet that the Burke's dogs were said to have approached to the curb, or 3 to 4 feet beyond the curb that they went?
Okay. From what, like I said, I wish Landon was here. Landon said Harley went to the curb at Burke's house. The curb line, not on the grass, on the street. His dogs were at the same line, and that's where they met, and that's where it started. So Harley did not go onto Burke's property, according to Landon, to start the fight with the dogs. That's what Landon was saying. Landon never said that the dogs went on, or Landon never said Harley went onto the property. That's what he told me. Harley was at the curb, Burke's dogs were at the curb line, they were both there, and that's where it started. And then it proceeded on to Burke's property, according to Landon. And then he went running up to grab Harley back, and he said Brad's wife was trying to assist in breaking the dogs up, and that Brad came around and started beating the dog with a shovel, and then threw the dog into the street. Long story short. I like I said, I don't know, I wasn't there, I can't say what I didn't see, I don't know what happened. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I'm just taking the word of my son and his statement and what he says. And my son, I've known him forever, he's 13 years old, he's never lied to me about anything, and I don't think he's gonna start now.
Oh, counselor, on that point, can we accept testimony from someone who is not present?
Well, if we were in a court of law, we wouldn't. We've kind of made the decision that we're going to receive every piece of evidence that's presented to you.
Thank you.
I think you can weigh that, that he's not here. That can be part of your decision. But I think we've decided that receiving all evidence is appropriate in this situation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Renzi. Oh, I apologize, you need
No,
you need to be
he's-
released by him,
he's
not
done.
me.
Officer Franzen, you have anything else to add?
The only thing I have to add, and I had talked to Brad about the offer that was offered, and he's the one that told me that the offer was there. I don't know who he spoke to. But I also do have a drawing that was made in Renzi's house with Landon's telling me where the actual thing is, if that's what the issue is, whether or not it's on his property. Obviously, I took this investigation as the sheriff's office on the 3rd. I actually talked to 7 witnesses for a dog bite. I made sure every person said, including Landon, Eric Renzi's son, that this happened on Brad Burke's property. Because of the nature of the beast here, I didn't want anybody coming back and say I was using the department's, and there was an issue because of that. I absolutely did the investigation, talked to the 3 witnesses that Eric gave me. He gave me 3 people that he says were eyewitnesses. I spoke to all 3 of those. I spoke to 7 people versus a dog bite here to make sure it was a thorough investigation. This is where he said the This is where he was across the street. The dog came across the street. He told me it was 2 feet away from the mailbox. It was 3 or 4 foot approximately into the yard, is what he told me. I drew the map in front of him at the time.
Yeah, go ahead.
If that's an issue.
Thank you.
I understand the dog, according to the owners, had never attacked anybody before. I did explain to them that it was very important where this happened, where the real estate was that this actually happened at. That was the most important thing, whether the dogs provoked or whether the fight was out in the street. That's why I did such an investigation into it, to find out, to talk to so many people to find out where this actually occurred at. And I explained all this to Eric when I was at his house. I explained to him that the biggest part of this was the dog who was going to go across the street onto some other property. That was an issue. If it wasn't on that property, things would be weighed differently. But that was the big problem. I understand some dogs don't have any bad bones in their body. People don't have bad bones in their body, and they kill people all of a sudden. They just snap. Same thing happens. He might not have never bit anybody since. I'm not saying he's a bad dog. This particular time, he did something that was against the law.
And all the witnesses are consistent, and they're saying all this action, the biting, the attacking, took place on the Burke property, according to...
The only difference between all the witnesses was that Landon told me that Brad Burke struck the dog with the shovel, I believe he said 4 to 5 times with the shovel, hit his head in the back of the head and the ribs. He was the only person that told me that Brad hit the dog that many times with the shovel. Everybody else said it was a one-time hit, and that the wife actually told him not to hit the dog again, and that's why he didn't strike the dog. Even though when dogs are fighting, you have all the right in the world to stop that from happening, whatever means possible, so.
Tom, are you submitting that as evidence?
I can make copies, whatever you like. If you guys want this as evidence, it's up to you guys, but.
I think we need to keep it. Yeah,
Please.
we need to keep it as part of the record. Yeah.
Do we still have the copy of Landon's
Yeah, we have,
affidavit?
They're
Yep.
both over here.
Could
we
you,
have the veterinarian bill and
is this a
Atlantic
document
statement.
that you're familiar with?
Here's
I've
the
never seen this
vet
before,
bill.
no.
You wanna look at that?
Thank you.
I've never seen this before. The first time I heard it was tonight.
Okay, so
And-
that's
and
not
that
your file?
contradicts
That is not in my file, that's
your
correct.
drawing. That
The drawing is in my file. This vet bill, I spoke to Eric about the vet bill. He said he's going to give me a copy of it, never did, but I didn't, the affidavit of Landon Renzi, that was completely done on their part. I have no, that was not in my
That was
file.
not part of it.
What's the stickers on the front of the
Their
bill?
exhibit, defendants exhibit A and B, there's a stickers that you can put on for, you would use it in court a lot of
Evidence,
times when I use that. But again, this is not mine, neither one of these two.
Thank you.
I just set them up
Yeah,
here.
those
We'll
are
take those.
submitted, Tom.
Yeah.
Do you have other testimony from the other witnesses? You had 7 total that you visited.
I talked to 3 witnesses on the phone, all by the phone. You have the other 3 statements in front of you. And then the other person would be Landon, which I did a oral interview with at Eric's house. That's 7 total people.
And that was when you attained the drawing that you shared with us?
That's correct. I went over that a lot of different times. I went over it because I knew how important that was from where the actual attack happened. That was the main focus of the interview, obviously, where it happened and how it happened, so we went over that a lot.
And who prepared the drawing, Tom?
I did the drawing with Landing there, telling me where to put the stuff, and asking questions to where.
And are you familiar with the property itself?
Yes.
Okay. How far from the curb did the attack occur?
The Landon said 3 to 4 foot is what he guessed from the mailbox.
I apologize. Once again, could you clarify, is that 3 to 4 foot into the street then?
What he told me, it was 3 to 4 foot from the mailbox. The mailbox is approximately 2 foot from the street. So it's approximately 5 to 6 feet from the street itself.
So this was on the Burke property then?
Correct.
According to that account?
Yes. And again, every person I talked to, I wanted to do a really good investigation here. I didn't want to be told that I didn't do a good investigation here. I went above and beyond for this dog bite case. I went and talked to these people. I talked to all the 3 people that Eric Renzi gave me to talk to. I talked to all 3 of those on the phone. They all said the same account. Being they all said the same account, I didn't have anybody write statements because they all said the same thing.
I'm assuming you've written tickets of this nature
Several times. I've been an
several
officer
times.
since 1989.
Okay. And I'm curious what you use as your definition for the word provocation. What fits provocation here? Is it
The reason it happened is what you're asking for? Or
is when these tickets are issued, is provocation based on property? Because that seems to be where we're headed here.
The provocation
Based on
means,
where,
it has a
or-
lot to do with where it happened. If the dogs maybe would have met in the middle of the road, they probably would be more apt to be not one dog's fault than the other dog. They probably would be more both dogs' fault. Or if Brad Burke's dog would have ran across the street and attacked his dog on the sidewalk across the street, obviously Brad's dog would have been more at fault because it left his property onto another property and actually was the aggressor. It's the same thing if you instead of using dogs, you'd use people. If you're sitting on your deck in your house and somebody walks onto your deck and punches you, that's one thing. Now, if you're out in the street arguing with this person, or you walk across the street onto his house and he punches you, there's 2 different things that involved here. So the real estate makes a big difference in where it actually happens at.
There's a difference between private and public property.
Correct, absolutely.
Right.
So if you meet in the middle of the street and you have a fight, you're both at fault, basically. If one person goes across the street onto somebody else's property, that person's usually more at fault because of that happening.
Any other questions for Deputy Franzen?
There was no question where it was, in my opinion. I would have never wrote the ticket if I thought there was a question of it. Because to me, that was very important to have that. So, as far as whether or not
You were versed with the ordinance.
the tax of doing it, correct. So I followed the ordinance, it fit the ordinance, that's why I wrote the ticket.
This statement differs from the map that you worked out with him.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And again, that statement also differs from the interview that I did at Eric's house also.
I'm assuming Eric was present when you talked to Landon?
Yes.
Yeah, the statement was notarized on the 23rd of July, and you interviewed him in June?
I believe
The incident was on the 30th of May.
30th, it was right after that.
Yeah, most of the statements are June 2nd, June 3rd. Okay, thank you. So,
Any other questions? If not, Cassie? Casey, I'm sorry. Do you have anything else more that you need to add?
They keep talking about a mailbox. We don't have a mailbox in our yard.
Oh,
There's no mailbox.
there's no mailbox in the yard. Okay.
Can we visit her, Mrs. Burke one more time, please?
Yes, come on up. Go ahead.
Could you again tell us how many times your husband struck the dog with the shovel?
One. Because
And-
I was holding the shovel like this with Brad, fighting with him, telling him not to do it.
Thank you.
And he hit him one time in the back. And he went in, I'm not sure exactly where his other hand was, but the one hand was up on the top of the dog's, like, back here by the ears. And I was screaming, and Landon was screaming, and Brad picked him up and he threw him. And he not one time said anything about shooting the dog in front of Landon. It was to a neighbor to the south of us. After this all took place, the neighbor to the south of us came into our yard and asked if our dog was okay. And that's when Brad said, if I couldn't have gotten him off of him, if I had my gun on me, I would have shot him.
Was Landon still present at
Nope,
that time?
he was gone. It was me, Brad, the neighbor, and our 2-year-old son and our 7-year-old son was in the front of the yard, but our 2-year-old was back there. And I told him, I said, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. I wouldn't let you do that.
You don't have a mailbox in your yard?
No.
No.
We have, there's in between our house and Baumeister's house, which this happened, like if our house is right here, this happened right here. Like if the curb was right there, we were right here. Then our driveway, and then there's an electrical box. I'm assuming that's what that is.
Maybe
It's an
that's what they were
electrical
talking
box
about, electrical boxes.
in between our yard and Bruce Baumeister's yard. This happened like in our yard, past our driveway.
So you don't have a sidewalk in your yard at all?
No, and neither there's no sidewalk across the street.
On the other side.
He was across the street from our house, kitty corner, by the light pole, walking like this. And our dogs were barking. Yes, we have a Chesapeake Bay Retriever. We have a miniature Schnauzer. He's 15 pounds, maybe.
Mhm.
And his dog was pulling him, and he was like this, trying so hard to pull his dog back. He was trying, totally trying. It was not his fault. The dog was just
Too big.
too big for him, yeah.
Did you make any attempt to get your dogs?
Our little dog wasn't even up there. He was behind all of us barking. My 7-year-old was over here. Landon and I were right here, and we were both trying to dig in.
Good.
And they were growling, and it's like the minute one of us stuck our hand in, they'd both, yeah. I mean, it was total, and I'm not saying his dog is bad either. I mean, I'm for huge animal people. I'm not saying, I'm just saying this time it was bad.
Any other questions?
Where in relation to the curb is your underground fence?
Like the curb is right here, our fence is like right here, but they can't, like, they have to get like within 4 feet of that, 3-4 feet of
Get
that
the
before it
charge.
starts. Yeah, they can,
3 foot, they beep, 1 foot, they start shocking, but if you go across the line, then they quit shocking once they get past it, so it doesn't keep shocking.
yeah.
That's how underground fences work. You should know that, you had one in your old house.
Oh, yeah.
You had the shot collars on at the
Yeah.
time, they were outside.
Yeah, they usually have bark collars on when we're not outside with them, but we were outside with them, so neither dog had their bark collar on.
Okay. But the underground fence collar was on?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And yeah, they'll walk as close as they can get to the fence. Every day they do that. They've never broke the fence, they've never gotten past the fence. I mean, this is their 3rd house with this fence, with this kind of fence.
Okay. Any other questions for Casey? Thanks. Brad, do you have anything else more to add?
No, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Brad? Eric, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I want to.
Come on up. Sorry.
About the gun, about shooting the dog. Brad admitted to me on the phone that he did threaten to shoot the dog in front of my son. He physically, on the phone, when he talked to me, told me, in front of my kid, he was going to shoot the dog.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, he did on the phone to me. when-
I didn't hear the phone conversation.
So,
Okay.
I just want to get that clarified. He threatened, so that's
Okay.
there. I just
Gotcha.
wanted to say that.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Any other questions for anybody? Any other statements? Okay.
Well, before we close, I would like to be heard. I'm here on behalf of Eric, so I don't know if you're done with your questions.
What was your name?
My name is Jamie Hunter.
I'm sorry. Come
My
on,
name is
come on.
Jamie Hunter. I didn't know if you were finished with your questioning, because I just wanted to make sure that I got a chance to speak before we ended.
Okay,
So may I proceed?
go ahead.
Okay. Well, my name is Jamie Hunter. I'm an attorney at the Dickey and Campbell Law Firm, and I'm here on behalf of Harley and the Renzi family.
Sure.
First, as a preliminary matter, we did not, I don't believe Eric ever received a copy of the packet that Deputy Franzen passed around, so I wanted to make sure that he did receive a copy of that today. And then in regards to the affidavit that you have been looking at, I just wanted to explain that I'm the one that typed that affidavit up after I spoke with Landon by myself. Eric wasn't around, no one else was around when we had that conversation, and when I typed up Landon's words from his version of what happened. And the other thing that we didn't get a copy of was that map. So I was wondering if I could see that real quick, if that's floating around here.
Tom, did you get the map back?
Tom, can you provide a copy of the map to the council and to Jamie? And also provide Jamie a copy of your report?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
I got a copy of it, if you want to look at it here. I just don't have any other copy, make sure you get it back.
You can have mine.
No, he meant the map,
No,
sir.
Oh.
She's looking at the map.
She wants the
Oh,
copy
the
of this,
report?
though. That's the
Okay,
report.
yeah.
That's what she was looking for.
Ms. Hunter?
Thank you. Is this an extra copy?
Yes,
Or
you can have mine. I don't need it. I've got
So I
it.
guess I just wanted to look at this map. So first of all, to make clear, it was Deputy Franzen that was the one that drew this. So it is inaccurate, apparently from the mailbox. In regards to where the altercation took place, 3 to 4 feet within the yard, I don't think that's inconsistent at all with what we've heard today. That's actually perfectly consistent with what Eric just testified to. He said that the altercation started at the street, at the curb, but then the actual fight took place on the yard, 3 to 4 feet within the yard. So I think that this map perfectly complements the statement that Landon provided us. I know he'd rather be here than wrestling. And also with what Eric testified to. And it was mentioned earlier that the focus today is whether this dog is deemed vicious under your ordinance. And not because we've heard of, some other issues. Obviously, this is a little bit different type of a case because, the victim in this case is also the chief of police in Carroll County. So we're going to be looking at it a little bit differently. And there's been some, maybe underlying motives and some lies that were allegations alleged against Deputy Franzen for lying about what the mayor said. And yeah, none of that has to do with whether this dog was vicious or not, but it is something to take into consideration when we're assessing the credibility of the witnesses that came here to testify today. These 3 people that Deputy Franzen talked to on the phone, they're not here today. We haven't heard from them. We're taking Deputy Franzen's assessment of what they testified to based on what he said here today, but then we also have information coming in that he's lied to Eric about conversations that he's had with the mayor and things like that. So I agree we have to focus on whether this dog is vicious, but we also have to use the information that we've heard today in assessing the credibility of the witness. And it's my understanding that this statute this ordinance was recently amended, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And again, I think that Officer Burke, Chief Burke came before you and has tried to amend the ordinance before and it was too broad. And then came back and finally came up with something. I will point out that on the City of Carroll's website still has the older version of the ordinance. But the copy that Eric did receive with the letter notice of this hearing does contain the updated version. There's 4 subsections, A, B, C, and D. I'm just going to assume that we're proceeding under subsection A or B. I don't think there's any allegations of dog fighting or whatever D was. But if you look at subsection A of that ordinance, I think there's 3 things that there has to be before this dog can be deemed vicious. One, whether Harley attacked another dog. Certainly there was an altercation, there was a dog fight, but I think that we've heard 2 varying accounts of which dog attacked which dog. Again, the provocation, I didn't see anywhere in your city code that defines provocation. Certainly Deputy Franzen's definition is whether or not it's on the property, off the property. I don't think that that's your definition. I think that it's broad, it's open to interpretation. And if we look at this from Harley's point of view, And from Landon's point of view, he sees two dogs loose in a yard. They're not restrained by a leash. They're not restrained by a rope or a chain. He doesn't know there's an underground fence. There's no sign saying there's an underground fence. From their perspective, there's two dogs loose in a yard barking. That's undisputed. From Landon's testimony that they're running out towards the road. From Harley's perspective, he perceived that he was under attack. He went into defense mode. He was provoked. And so for that reason, I don't think that we can deem Harley vicious because he was provoked if we're looking at it through his lens. And also the dog also has to be at large, and the definition of at large is not under the command of a competent person. And at all times, Landon was right there. The only time he didn't have control over Harley was when this fight was taking place or when Officer Burke was beating him with a shovel. I guess I'd also just wanted to point out how Landon would know about the threat to shoot him if he didn't in fact hear it, if it was said at a later time. And then finally, the other people that we have here today, and I think Eric briefly mentioned them, is because Harley was asked to be removed from the city, so they're currently living with aunt and uncle. And like they said, they've got other dogs in the home. They have kids in the home. Harley's a bed hug. He's a sweetheart. I didn't get a chance to print out the pictures, but I looked at Landon's Facebook page right before I came here today. And I guess I would just like to, if I have that, just kind of pass that around so you get a better idea. And this conversation is all about Landon and Harley, and neither of them are here today. So there's a picture of Landon and Harley. Just pass it around. We also heard Deputy Franzen talk a lot about this very thorough investigation that he did. But this very thorough investigation, he was at the home, but he didn't take pictures of Harley. So he didn't take any pictures of Harley's injuries. He didn't write any statements down. He didn't get a copy of Harley's vet bill. I think he was very thorough in terms of proving his case, but maybe not quite as thorough in getting the full story. So with that, I appreciate you letting me come up here and take a few minutes. Eric, did I miss anything?
Where she's at right now, their smallest dog, what would you guys say, 15 pounds? Yeah, you're a little less off, so 8 pounds. So she's around another dog that size, or two dogs, and the size of Brad Burke's dog too. Sure. And she's around. They do have video of the dogs interacting together. If that, you guys want to see that, I mean, that's all I have with that.
Parker growled when I brought her in the house at night.
Yeah.
That was the first time they've ever been when I brought her home.
Ms. Hunter, I am curious, this affidavit of Landon Renzi has been altered.
Yes.
Could you please allude to that?
Yeah. So my office is in Des Moines, so I typed that up after a full conversation with Landon. I faxed it over to him, and he pointed out the mistake that I had made about the leash versus the collar. I said he had let go of the leash or something to that effect, and he corrected me and said that the collar broke. And so those alterations were what Landon crossed out and wrote on before he signed it.
These are in Landon's handwriting then?
Yep, that's not me.
I really wish those would have been at least initialed at some point. I don't know as it's a, no, anyway.
Well, I guess I would point out that it is notarized. So we do know that Landon did sign that document after reviewing it.
Yeah, but we don't know if the alterations were made before or after the notarizing. That's what concerns me about it. That's the only reason I ask about it.
I understand that. I probably should have been more clear. But regardless of who made the alterations, I don't necessarily think that those details have any effect on the ultimate decision whether this dog is vicious or not. I think it's just kind of a detail regarding the collar versus the leash.
I concur with that.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I left them out right here.
Okay. Any other questions for anybody? No?
I got a question. They said that,
Come on up here by the microphone, please. And just state your name.
Ryan shot,
Ryan, okay.
she was saying that the fence is about like, this was the curb, fence is to here. Doesn't the city own so far from the curb in though anyway?
That
So
would be
isn't the
correct.
fence out past their property line anyway? So how far out did it actually happen, or was it still on city property?
Correct. Thank you. Any other questions? I will need a motion to affirm or reverse the order.
Make a motion to affirm.
Second.
There's a motion to affirm the order. Seaman?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. All right. We will move on. Trust everyone has read the committee reports. And I have no further comments this evening. However, Carroll, would you like to make a few comments?
I think based upon the things that have taken place in the previous hour, I'm going to withhold my comments to a different time, and I will do that. I will put together a copy and
Just one more thing.
And let you
before I
see
go,
it.
Dr. Jim.
Just a second. We got to finish here first. I got to finish here first.
I would appreciate you telling Landon that his dog's gonna stay out of town, because
Okay.
you do know my son.
I
And
know.
you lived with him.
Yep, thank you. Okay.
I think that's enough evidence. I'll make my comments either Friday morning or in between.
Sounds good. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
We are adjourned.